you should hear the message now. So this, I don't know if it played or not, but so this is being recorded and it will be shared online, on social media, and also on our local television station. And we'll send you a link afterwards, so if you want to share it with friends or if you missed part of it, you can watch it again. We encourage very much questions and comments, either about OLLI or for any of the instructors who will be speaking today. You can type them in at any time in the chat box, which is found in most devices right at the bottom of your screen. I'm going to put something in the chat box now for those who may not know where it is. Let's see. Hello, everyone. And if you feel like saying hello on the chat box and what town or even state you're in right now, that would be lovely. The important thing to remember with the chat box is always hit enter after you're finished typing. And Andy, if you can hear me, if you can turn the doorbell off, that would be great. Because obviously we have folks that are still joining us, which is wonderful. We're over 100 people now. So the questions and comments can be put in at any time into the chat box. Oh, we have someone from Tulsa, Oklahoma. Welcome. And Grand Rapids, Michigan. Great. Welcome, welcome. Wow. Sheffield, Sanesfield. I better not get distracted into reading all of those. You can put in your questions or comments at any time. We will wait till everyone has spoken to start going through the Q&A part. So just hold tight, but you know, if you're listening to a speaker and you have a question about their class, put it in when you're thinking about it, and then we can address it at towards the end. So as for those who are new to OLLI, it's truly a learning community, and membership is at the heart of our community. By joining OLLI at BCC, you are able to sign up for classes during all 5 of our yearly semesters. We just added a 5th semester this year after piloting it last year, thanks to Steve Tobin and Lenny Tabbs. So we have 2 semesters in the summer. If you join, you'll also receive discounts on OLLI events, be able to attend our shared interest groups, which are free and exclusively for OLLI members, and much more. When I first joined OLLI 6 years ago, because yes, I'm a member too, I discovered that I was joining a group of people who love to learn, who are engaged in their community, and who are active in it in so many ways. One of OLLI's strengths is that it is the members themselves who organize our classes, our special events, our talks, and so much more. We have extraordinary volunteers who help create our programs, and we encourage you to get involved as a volunteer. It's a great way to meet people and to create the kinds of classes and events that you yourself would most enjoy. To find out more about volunteering, you can email or call the OLLI office, and we can help you figure out what would be a great fit. I also want to give a shout out to the co-chairs of OLLI's membership committee that are here with us today, Monica Sinclair and Ellen Quabier. Their committee is a fabulous one, organizing great events and making sure members feel welcomed, and that's a great committee to join, along with all the others, because there's too many to even mention right now. So an example of a really extraordinary OLLI initiative that has been created and organized by OLLI member volunteers is a new one that is launching this month on the future of technology. It kicks off next Wednesday with a free online conversation with Larry Burns, the author of Autonomy, The Quest for the Driverless Car and How It Will Reshape Our World. He was the Vice President of Research and Development at General Motors and an advisor to Google's driverless car project. He will be in conversation with the Berkshire's own Patrick Larkin, who is both the founder and the director of Massachusetts's Innovation Institute, which was one of the first in the nation. And it's a terrific book, by the way. Patrick told me that after reading it, he went from being a driverless car skeptic to a true believer in his future. So I highly recommend that talk. That's next Wednesday, September 16th at 7 p.m. Eastern, and it's free and open to all. But that talk is just the appetizer for an extraordinary full course this fall. A little pun there. Transformative Technologies and the Effect on Work and Society, which will be held Thursdays from 1:30 to 3 p.m. beginning September 24th. and it features over 20 guest speakers ranging from best-selling authors to the head of technology for the city of New York and so many more, including James Fallows, the kind of legendary writer and journalist who got a start actually as a speechwriter for Jimmy Carter. He will be one of our many terrific speakers. So Katherine Kidd, and I hope she's here. I'm going to take a quick peek around. Oh, yes, she is. Wonderful. Is a retired professor. She is a beloved OLLI instructor, and she is a member of the Fearsome Foursome, as they call themselves, which is the extraordinary group of OLLI members who put together this amazing initiative and 8-week course. So I'd like to invite Kate or Katherine to tell us more about it.
Okay, thank you, Megan, and welcome to everyone who's here. I see the names of many friends in the chat, but also newcomers from across the country, and it's wonderful to have you here. It's not quite 5 years since my husband and I moved to the Berkshires in retirement, and OLLI has been just an amazing resource for us in settling in here in the Berkshires in this community. And we're very excited about the Transformative Technologies course. It was originally planned as a 2-day in-person seminar or conference with the Berkshire Innovation Center and One Berkshire. But because of COVID and because OLLI has been so wonderful pivoting to online courses, we've changed it to an online offering and a course. It's not only open to OLLI members, it's also open to members and the staff of members of the BIC and of One Berkshire. We've also invited faculty, staff, and students from all of our 4 partner universities in the Berkshires. And I'm mentioning that at the beginning because it's really important for this course. We see new technologies and businesses that embody those new technologies, social services like hospitals and schools that embody those technologies as key to the future of the Berkshires. But these technologies are not neutral. They come with positive sides, but they also come with negative sides. As we all know, we wouldn't even be here without these wonderful technologies. On the other hand, we worry about our privacy. We worry about the election that's coming. I'm looking forward to Tom Gerety's class that might address that. But it's absolutely critical that we engage with these technologies, that we think about them, and that we interrogate them, not in little isolated pockets, but as an integrated community. And so we've designed this course primarily for OLLI members, but also for all of these other members in the community who fortunately, because the course will be online, can join us. And we're starting with the first class after the Larry Burns lecture. The first class will be with Elizabeth Reynolds, who directs the Center on Work of the Future at MIT. She's one of the world's leading experts on this topic. She recently keynoted a conference that cost a lot of money for the Financial Times in London, but she has generously donated her expertise and time to OLLI. As Megan mentioned, Alexis Wachowski, who's the Deputy Chief Information Officer for the City of New York and the author of a fantastic book, The Information Trade, will be talking with us about social implications, as will Nick Carr, the author of The Shallows and the Glass Cage, and Ethan Zuckerman, who was at MIT, retired in protest over tainted contributions that his center had received, and is now at the University of Massachusetts. And finally, we're very excited that James and Deborah Fallows, the co-authors of Our Towns, which is a study of a number of small communities similar to ours, small cities like Pittsfield, rural counties like the Berkshires, that have reinvented themselves with technology as a critical component. And so they're going to be the final speakers for the course. As with all of OLLI's courses this fall, you can join the class at the regular time that it's being offered on Thursday afternoons from 1:30 to 3, or you can join it asynchronously. But you have to register for the class to be able to do it asynchronously. And we have a wonderful resource list of books and articles that have been written by our speakers. And so I'm just really, really excited about this class and the new kind of partnership that it represents between OLLI and other organizations in the community. Megan, I'm over my 3 minutes. But
are you asking me to interrupt you?
I hope that's okay, and we're very, very excited. And the transformative technology course does not cost any more than the other classes. It's a regular OLLI course. If you're not an OLLI member, you pay a little higher fee, but we are offering it free to students and faculty at all our partner universities. I will try to answer questions if anybody wants to type any in on the chat. And I'll turn it back over to Megan.
At the end. Sorry, thank you.
Yeah. Okay.
And we're going to do questions at the end just to keep things simple and moving along. Thank you so much, Kate. I think this is going to be a really extraordinary class. With the sessions have been set up with such care and thought and really extraordinary speakers. And of course, one of the silver linings of holding classes on Zoom is that you can invite guest speakers from really anywhere in the world, and you can they can attend very easily. So we've been able to really benefit from that. Next up, I'd like to introduce Steve Tobin, who will be moderating not 1, but 2 online classes this fall. On Monday mornings, he moderates Today's Headlines, which features lively but respectful discussion of current events, and boy, are there a lot of them. And on Wednesday afternoons, he will moderate Hot Topics, where different guest speakers will address hot button issues each week, from climate change to the Me Too movement and more. Of course, there's lots of hot topics these days too. So please join me in welcoming Steve Tobin. Steve?
Thank you, Megan, and good morning, everybody. So I'm going to talk about the hot topics first. I'm just going to briefly tell you what they are. There's 6 weeks of them. The first one is pros and cons of online education in K through 12 and university classes. The next one is surveillance capitalism. The third one is climate change. The fourth is the police culture. How do we change it? The fifth one is, has the Me Too made a difference? And the sixth one is the consequences of conservative courts with a local attorney and instructor. So each one of these classes, of course, very timely, and they've taken time to put together, but they'll very much deal with local and issues that are present today. That class will be Wednesday from 3:30 to 5, and each speaker will give you will have you an opportunity to be able to ask questions and interact. The second class that we're doing, of course, is Today's Headlines, which is an ongoing class generally in every semester. And we do that Monday from 9:30 to 11 o'clock. And it's that class we actually run a little longer because it runs through when there's an election. We actually carry it on a little later than that. So anyhow, we invite you to both. They're both very interesting. We get lots of people. We enjoy it. And the more the merrier. And again, thank you, Megan.
Thank you, Steve. Next up, we have Diane Whitehead, who happens to be married to Steve Tobin, so they are definitely a dynamic duo. That's the tip of the iceberg, however, as Diane is an extraordinary leader in the field of nursing education, having written many textbooks and taught many courses and organized curriculum and so much more. We are fortunate to have her teaching for the first time, and it's a course on women as leaders this semester, which will be held on Tuesday afternoons at 1:30 p.m. beginning September 22nd. Please join me in welcoming Diane Whitehead.
Thank you, Megan. Hi, everyone. I'm delighted to be here and to become a more active part of OLLI. I promise you that this is not your college course on how to be a good leader. In fact, probably the biggest challenge of putting this course together was that there are so many amazing women leaders. So we have a 6-week course. We're going to start out with looking at ancient women warriors and ancient women leaders, move right into in week 2 talking about women that were active in equal rights. And in week 3, we're going to move into the 1960s, which now starts bringing back a lot of fun memories that we can share with each other, the 1960s and beyond. Continuing to move into looking at the spectrum of women leaders in all different fields, and then ask the questions about what exactly is the glass ceiling, what does that mean, some of the new writing coming out in the popular literature on male entitlement, what does that mean for women leaders? In week 5, we're going to actually ask the question, what will it really take to be a woman president? What's the current literature that's out there on that? What are some of the things that writers are looking at about why we don't yet have a woman president, and will we in the near future? And then in week 6, I'm going to bring in a lot of current research on women in leadership. What does that mean for the future? How can we, as, I don't want to say older adults, but people that are not really in the mainstream workforce anymore, encourage other young women, our grandchildren, and even our children who are in the middle of their careers to become extraordinary women leaders. So I promise you it'll be a lot of fun. I have a lot of great YouTube clips, and I know we'll have a lot of discussion on this. The men are also invited. It just isn't for women only, but they can only talk after the woman in their household has had her chance to talk. So I hope you'll come. It's Tuesday afternoons at 1:30. It will be exciting, and I look forward to seeing all of you. Thanks.
Thank you so much, Diane. That sounds wonderful. One of the challenges you'll find, I find especially, is that every class sounds so terrific that you'll end up wanting to take them all. Next up we have Tom Gerety. And speaking of leadership, he wowed OLLI members when he was a distinguished speaker a year or 2 ago. And so we're thrilled to have him teach a full course for OLLI. He's the former president of both Amherst and Trinity colleges and holds a PhD and a law degree from Yale. He will be teaching a course on constitutional law in the time of COVID-19 on Friday mornings. Welcome, Tom.
Hi there, Megan, and thank you. I hope you can hear me.
Yeah.
It's fun to hear about all these things. So my class is about the con law and the Supreme Court in the time of the pandemic, which also happens, of course, quite significantly to be constitutional law in the time of Trump, who in his own perverse way is one of the great teachers of what our Constitution can and cannot do. So I'm going to touch, of course, on the vote, on elections, and the various challenges to voting in the United States, both historical and, of course, much more recent. Race and the police, the great LGBTQ plus case decided surprisingly by Justice Gorsuch on the basis of this interpretive notion of strict textualism. So we'll talk about constitutional interpretation. We'll talk about the presidency and its asserted powers, including asserted emergency or even secret powers. And we'll talk about the questions of coercion and liberty involved in both vaccination and stay-at-home orders and other restrictions on businesses and people that have been so controversial in the last several months. In doing all this, we'll touch on religious and speech freedoms, but it's really a touching down on some of the great controversies of the last few years and maybe even of our generation, but especially as they've been brought into focus and sharp and challenging focus by the pandemic. And I hope it's a good class. If anybody takes it, I hope you'll read Supreme Court decisions with real attention and attentiveness. And I should tell Megan and everybody else, because it's important to my Gmail, that my last name is oddly spelled. It's Gerety, Megan, not Gerity. There are only two such spellings in the whole Irish phone book, so it's easy to miss.
And is it a hard G or a soft G?
Gerety.
Gerety, okay.
My football coach in high school used to say, Gerety, get out there and run hard.
Both of my first name and my last name get frequently misspelled and mispronounced, so I totally understand. Thank you so much, Tom.
We're all Americans in that regard.
Exactly. Thank you. Next up, I would like to introduce Carole Owens. Carole will be teaching a second local history class called The Berkshires, Coming of Age in, Coming of Age 1840 to 1890. It's a continuation of what she's taught before. She is one of our most extraordinary historians of the Berkshires there is. She's written several books on the history of the Berkshires and holds a PhD from Yeshiva University and is a Massachusetts Scholar in Residence with a Paul Tsongas Award for History and Preservation. Please join me in welcoming Carole. Oh, we can't hear you, Carole.
Can you hear me?
Yes, now we can. Perfect.
Good.
Thank you.
Okay. There's a funny trick with my volume, so I have to play with it. Good morning, everyone. What we're doing is tracing the history of the Berkshires from the very, very beginning in the 1730s up through, I don't know, up through when I get tired. So this segment is 1840 to 1890, which would include the Gilded Age, which everyone knows about and is always so interested in. The Gilded Age is when they built the Berkshire cottages, those enormous, big, beautiful homes. But we start in 1840, which was known as the American Lake District, because very often in history, it's what came before that explains what's happening now. And so that's what we're going to do. We're going to start in 1840 and we're going to build up in little 50-year bites to the Gilded Age. And I hope you join us.
Great. Thank you so much, Carole. I think that's going to be an exciting class. Next up, I'd like to invite Greig Siedor. Greig is a longtime OLLI instructor. He taught a whole series on World War I in line with the 100th anniversary of World War I, looking at each year. That was extremely popular. He will be teaching a class on deceptions in war this time, and we're very much looking forward to it. He has just moved to Michigan or Illinois. One of those. So he's in the process of moving in, so we're especially happy to have him here today to join us. Greig, you want to tell us about your course?
I would be happy to if you can all hear me.
Yep, we can hear you.
The old expression says that all's fair in love and war. I'm not sure about the love part, but there's no question that the history of World War II is replete with examples of deceit and trickery. Everybody lied and cheated, but nobody did it better than the British. This course will examine in detail deception during the war on both tactical and strategic levels, with particular attention on the role of double agents. As is typical with my classes, lots of pictures and maps, and I hope great stories. If I learned anything during the preparation of this course, it is the astonishing ability of a creative and devious mind to come up with persuasive lies that cause an opponent to make terrible and consequential mistakes. We will see just how devious and creative deception was during World War II and draw some conclusions about the extent Allied fakery contributed to the ultimate defeat of Germany, Italy, and Japan. So come on along and enjoy the fun. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Greg, and I highly recommend his course. Of course, all of these I recommend because we really do have extraordinary instructors. Next up, we have Steve Somkin, who is a true Renaissance man. After a career in medicine, he returned to his other real loves, including playwriting and the ancient Greeks. He's taught his classes on some of the ancient Greeks, and he's written 17 full-length and a dozen short plays that have been produced in New York, the Berkshires, and regionally. He also serves as a docent in paleontology and biodiversity at the American Museum of Natural History, which is why, to my surprise, he is, my delighted surprise, he will be teaching a class on dinosaurs. So Stephen, tell us more.
Yes, good morning. This course is about the actual dinosaurs, not politicians. There have been a number of interests in the dinosaurs over the course of their discoveries, which was in the early 19th century. And we're in the middle of a dinosaur renaissance right now that has lasted for the last 20 years or so. A number of very important new discoveries, new conceptual tools, new technologies. I'm thinking particularly of CT scanning, which allows us to investigate the interior of brain cases. So we have some idea of the relative importance of the different senses that different dinosaurs had. My course will consist of 5 classes. Introduction to the dinosaurs. What is a dinosaur, and having a good look at the different kinds of dinosaurs. Then we'll do American paleontology. Paleontology is uniquely an American science discipline. It didn't start here, but it was really developed here. Now, at this time, it's kind of worldwide. Then we're going to look at the evolution of birds. Birds, as most of you know, I guess, evolved from a particular class of theropod dinosaurs, and they're the only dinosaurs left in the world today, that is, non-avian dinosaurs. Then we're going to take a look at tyrannosaurs, which is a clade. Clade is a grouping of evolutionarily related species, genuses and species, and this particular group is the tyrannosaurs. And the reason I'm focusing on that is that the American Museum of Natural History did a special show on that, which I was a docent for last year. I think it still may be running, but who knows? I mean, with the COVID, everything's closed. The museum is closed right now. I think it actually is just about to reopen. And then the last class will be on the extinction, so-called KT extinction, or Cretaceous Tertiary extinction, with the asteroid strike in the Yucatan 65.5 million years ago, and what that has done to the shape of the world, the current world, and allowed the rise of mammals, which includes us. So that's it. I hope you will enjoy the course if you sign up. I encourage you to do so. And the text that we will use is by Stephen Russati, called The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs. And it is available in paperback, and it is immensely readable, even for the person who's only casually interested in dinosaurs. So thank you.
Thank you, Stephen. I did take a look at the book that you recommended, and it looks super interesting. And one of the things I find interesting is that, you know, we may have learned about dinosaurs, you know, 20 or 30 or 40 years ago, but, you know, just like any other topic, there's been a lot of new scholarship and new discoveries and stuff. So I'm sure there's going to be things that will really surprise us and be new to people who take your class. So it sounds wonderful. Next up, I'd like to welcome Anne Berman. Anne is a new OLLI member, recently moved west from Eastern Massachusetts, where she was involved with a lifelong learning organization there. She holds a Master of Arts in Shakespeare Studies from King's College London and spent 30 years as a teacher and administrator in public schools, and then 8 years as a course facilitator at the lifelong learning organization at Regis College. So we're really delighted. She's going to be teaching for the first time for our OLLI, and the class is on King Lear on the page and stage, and it will be held on Thursday. So welcome, Anne.
Hi, thank you, Megan. So I've taught for a long time, and for me the biggest challenge actually of this course coming up is whether I'm going to be able to teach sitting down. I don't know, we'll see how that goes. I've been teaching Shakespeare in lifelong learning programs for about 8 years, and I try to focus on both the text and the performance. So if you are signing up, I hope you'll be able to get a copy of the Folger King Lear, so that's the text we'll be working off of. And I usually pair my courses with a live local performance. I've been doing that with the Actor Shakespeare Project in Boston for the last few years, and had hoped this year to partner with Shakespeare and Company. And of course that's not happening, but I've decided to teach King Lear anyway. Hopefully Shakespeare and Company will be doing that next summer, and Actor Shakespeare Project just did it last fall. I hope that some of you might have been able to see that production. So I'm interested in connecting my course with live performance. Since we can't do that, we'll probably be relying on the Anthony Hopkins version, the film, which is available for free on Amazon if you have Amazon Prime. And I also count on the people in my class to do reading out loud. That'll be a little more challenging with Zoom, but I'm hoping we'll be able to figure it out. Andy's going to help me hopefully figure all that out, how we can incorporate you into the class by, if you'd like to, by reading out loud. I think that's pretty much all, although if you read the course description, you may be wondering how or why Modern Farmer would have done a review of a production of King Lear, but you're going to have to come to the class to find out.
Thank you so much, Anne. You read my mind. I was indeed wondering about that. I thought it was a really interesting reference. So it'll definitely be worth taking the class just for that and for so much more. We're so lucky to have Anne Berman joining us. Next up, I'd like to welcome Richard Matturro. Richard is a longtime OLLI instructor, well beloved, and he is also the chair of our literature curriculum committee. So he helps make a lot of really wonderful literature courses come to life for OLLI, which we're incredibly grateful about. He holds a doctorate in English with a specialization in Shakespeare and Greek mythology. After 16 years at the Albany Times-Union, he taught literature at the University of Albany for 14 years. He's the author of numerous newspaper articles and 6 novels. And that is the subject of his class this fall, and it's been a series of classes. He's going to be reading out loud from one of his novels, Janie, on Tuesday afternoons, and then holding a discussion. And I can't think of anything better as a counterpoint to current events than listening to someone with a lovely voice like Richard, who also has a lot of experience in acting and stage readings, sharing his written work with us. So Richard, tell us more.
Okay, thank you, Megan. This is my 10th year as an OLLI instructor, and I can't quite believe that. you can usually find me teaching Shakespeare or Homer or Moby Dick. But with the pandemic and Zoom, I've been doing something different for the last couple of semesters, especially since most of our other entertainment venues have disappeared. Being a novelist and having also been an actor, I decided to do dramatic readings of my books, one of my books for each semester. I read the entire novel in 6 segments with time at the end of each reading for a general discussion. It's sort of a cross between an audiobook and a book discussion group, with this difference: you've got the author right there to throw virtual tomatoes at, if you prefer. I encourage all participants to be as candid with their remarks as possible. It's a chance to discuss writing from the inside and to get the writer's perspective on the novel itself and on the creative process. For the fall, I'll be reading Janie, which was published by Livingston Press in 2012. Janie is a 46-year-old Boston artist with a very sizable chip on her shoulder after her husband of 24 years divorces her. The story follows her through a series of emotional and existential trials, similar to the 12 labors of Hercules. And as you are told in the course description, if you hate her at the beginning, be warned, by the end, you may very well fall in love with her. The course is Tuesday afternoons at 3:30, and there's no need to sit at the computer the whole time. I encourage participants to turn up the volume and move about, have your afternoon tea, start your cocktail hour early, and you only have to come back to the computer when the discussion begins at the end. So I hope to see you. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. That just sounds very relaxing and wonderful, I have to say. And Richard is also the co-instructor for another class, and that class is called Das Boot, the uncut version. We offered it several years ago with the same instructors, and it was a big hit. And for those who don't know, many people know about the film, but it was originally a mini series, and so it's much longer than what we usually have seen here in the United States. And it's actually quite hard to find the uncut version, I think. Richard will be co-teaching with Robert Miller, and this is just a genius combination because Robert has a degree in engineering from Washington University, and he actually served on a submarine in the U.S. Navy and then spent 28 years at GE in Schenectady as an engineering manager responsible for procurement and field support of naval propulsion equipment. So you have an expert on submarines and how they work, combined with Richard, who also, as well as his literature classes, also teaches some terrific, absolutely terrific film classes. So I'd love to welcome Bob Miller and hear more from him.
Good morning.
Good
And
morning.
if you've read the course description, well, you know that this is arguably the best submarine film ever made. It's a spellbinding story of a German U-boat during World War II. The movie is told from the point of view of a journalist assigned to this claustrophobic engine of destruction, which in 1941, when it takes place, has only a 1 chance in 4 of returning to its home port. It's a nail-biting, edge-of-your-seat thriller, and it'll be shown in 6 sessions. Each session will start with an approximately 50-minute segment of the film, followed by a few brief remarks, sometimes with illustrations, and then a discussion period when your observations and questions are welcome. Some may just like a war movie. Some may have had a relative who served on a submarine. Or perhaps you're just looking for a way to fill out your fall Friday afternoons. But come on along. The perspective that I provide to it is that of a young engineer in his mid-20s who was faced with military service, and it was not going to be the Army. So, and I had had a rather unique employment experience involving a submarine only a few months out of university in first employment. Not long after, while in the Navy, I spent a couple of years on a modernized World War II vintage diesel submarine. So come on along and enjoy the movie. Put it on a big screen if you have one.
Great. Thank you so much, Bob. That sounds like a great way to end the week with a really engrossing film that is with discussion by two amazing instructors, Bob and Richard. Next up, I'd like to introduce Michael Forbes Wilcox. He has taught for us a number of times now, which has been really wonderful. He holds an MA in economics from Trinity College. He's a retired something really complicated in data and stocks and stuff. Sorry, I can't remember what it's called. He serves as his town's moderator and is extraordinary in a number of ways, actually. But what we have so much benefit from is his deep dive into studying Indigenous culture and history. And this is, I think, the third in a series of classes about it. I could be wrong. But Michael, please tell us more about the course you'll be offering this fall.
Okay, thank you, Megan. The emphasis of this course that I'm teaching on Wednesdays from 1:30 to 3 will be on the values of three different interacting cultures: European, colonial, and American. And by American, I mean Native American, which is how the word was used before there was a United States. And it is my contention that today's major problems of climate change, economic inequality, and racism originated in Europe and were exacerbated by mistakes that were made in our dominant culture, that is, the colonial culture in this country. Now, the solutions are not simple, of course, and I don't pretend to have the answers, wish I did, but I do hope that I can persuade you to look at the indigenous cultures for some inspiration. For example, for thousands of years, before Europeans arrived here on these shores, there were many millions of American people living in harmony with nature. They understood the concept of renewability, and they practiced sustainable agriculture, vowing, as you may have heard this expression, to preserve the earth unto the seventh generation. And that value is enshrined in the Haudenosaunee Great Law of Peace. Now, if the colonists had adopted these native practices, perhaps we would not now be facing our climate change crisis. In the Americas in 1491, there was no poverty, there was no homelessness. Cultural practices varied throughout the Americas, of course. There were many, many different cultures, but somehow each society managed to take care of their own. We should be able to do the same thing, but we do not. Final example, racism was a European invention in the 15th century. It was a device that was used to justify slavery and also the expropriation of native lands in Africa and the Americas, among other places. So we need to uninvent the concept of race. Anyway, there's much more, but of course you'll have to sign up for my course and join in the conversation, please. As I say, it'll be Wednesdays from 1:30 to 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and I look forward to a lively discussion about these issues. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Michael. So his course is Indigenous American Cultures, Cross-Pollination with European Thought. And as he said, it will be on Wednesday afternoons. Next up, I am delighted to welcome Kate Sontag. This is, I think, the second or possibly third OLLI class she's taught for us on poetry. She is the co-editor of the essay collection After Confession, Poetry as Autobiography. Her poems have been published widely in journals and anthologies. She has received a number of awards for teaching, as well as the Ron Bay's Poetry Prize and more, and holds an MFA in poetry from the Iowa Writers Workshop. I love the name of her class, which is Dressed Up Poetry, Fun with Forms. It's going to be held on Friday afternoons, and I welcome Kate to tell us more about her course.
Thank you. Hi, Megan. Hello, everybody. Just so that you know, you are not required to dress up for this class, although, of course, the title for the class arose during these COVID times when we tend to wander around our homes perhaps more casually than usual because we are often staying at home. I'm teaching this class because I do so enjoy interaction and feedback from my students, and I really, participants, I don't want to call you them students, but participants had asked me to do a class in forms, and I thought that was a wonderful idea. I love writing in forms. I love studying in forms. What that means is that these particular forms, like the sonnet, the villanelle, the sestina, the ghazal, the pantoum, and many, many more, have strict rules. What one wonderful formalist poet calls dancing in the box. So you have a shape, a pattern. These patterns are wonderful for keeping the brain active, learning to recognize these patterns. You dance inside the box. You're writing a poem inside a particular structure, and sometimes you are pushing that form to its limits. And so what I look forward to is discussing these various forms, perhaps 2 each class, so that by the end of the 6 sessions, you will have spent a good time, hopefully an enjoyable time, but a good amount of time learning these forms, and perhaps have 12 under your belt, and perhaps even try writing in some of these forms. Robert Frost, I always like to quote something he said about poetry in general, which is that poetry is a momentary stay against confusion. And I think that if we ever needed that, we need it more now than ever. And fixed forms working within a particular pattern can, I think, really enhance how to create order and meaning. And I really look forward to talking about these forms with you. I'm just going to end by reading, and I will say this is not a class on my own poetry, but I'm not going to tell you the title because that would give away the form, but I'm going to read just one stanza of it. It's recently published online in a journal called Verse Virtual. And here is the stanza, just to give you a sense of what I mean by form, recurring patterns. This new form of distancing gives me pause with every breath. With each gloved hand that secures the mask, nose to lips to jaws, this new form of distancing gives me pause. Like nothing else since learning the laws of intimacy as a girl. No matter the errand, this new form of distancing gives me pause with every breath, with each gloved hand. And there are formalists who will say you have to count each one of those syllables. You have to know how to count out the metrics. There are other formalists who will say, no, you just have to feel it. And we'll be talking a lot about formalism as a school of poetry, which comes in and out of fashion as we go along. And I hope to see you. Thank you.
Great. That sounds wonderful. Thank you so much, Kate. And just a reminder that that class is limited to just 15 instructors and 15 participants, and it's filling up quickly. So if you'd like to register for it, I encourage you to do so today or tomorrow because it will fill up. And also just a reminder that another silver lining of holding classes online is that you have the choice of watching them live or watching them on demand at the time of your choice. So if you miss one because of another appointment, or you really want to take a class, but it's conflicts with something, each course will be recorded and the OLLI office will be happy to send you a link to the recording on request. And next up, I'm really delighted to welcome Laszlo Dianis, who will be teaching What is Art, What is Beauty, which is also limited registration. So if you want to sign up for that, I encourage you to do so very soon, and I know you'll want to after hearing from him. He has taught for 38 years at UMass Amherst, teaching Russian culture, literature, world cinema, digital culture, theories of aesthetics, and cultures in exile. He was a Fulbright scholar in France and Germany and holds a PhD from Harvard University. Welcome, Laszlo.
Thank you, Megan. First, a question. Can I share the screen and put up my notes?
No, we're not doing share screen this time. It's more about you just telling us about your course. So it's hearing firsthand from the instructors.
Yeah, okay.
We'll save that for the course itself.
Sure, all right. Well, hello, everybody. With a title like this, what is art, what is beauty? Obviously, the first thing I have to say is that we won't give answers, final answers, or won't give the answer to these questions. I don't believe there is such a thing. There is no universal answer that everybody will accept or have to accept to any of these questions. But we all have our own feelings, our own preferences, our own opinions. So the class was originally envisioned very much like a discussion section, an exploratory kind of thing where we just throw around ideas, explore ideas, approaches, suggestions about how to look at these things, what is art, what is beauty. So the search is not for answers, it's more like for questions and tentative answers or potential answers. For example, one very simple answer to what is beauty could be the saying, we know it when we see it. Or it's an eye candy, just like music could be an ear candy, or literature and poetry is a kind of brain candy, or something like that. We will talk or discuss about the ideas of how beauty and art change, whether they are universal or not. Does art and the phenomenon of beauty appear in every culture? When did it start? We might look at the evolutionary origins of art, how people started to decorate things and maybe art grew out of that. Another interesting topic to me would be to speculate or explore the idea that there has to be something in common to all the arts, all the different arts, from cinema to architecture, from rocks to music, from novels to ballet, that unites them. And if there is such a thing common to all of them, what is it and where is it? Can we identify it? Can we describe it? There are actually scientists today who put people into an MRI machine and they claim to have found the location of the artistic experience. So we live in a very interesting time. We could talk about the problems of art appreciation. why is there such a problem with modern art for many people? Why don't they enjoy it or find it, or are indifferent to it, find it inexplicable? How do we deal with non-figurative, non-verbal, non-narrative, abstract forms of art, such as music, plain music, no lyrics, or ceramics again, or rugs, or architecture? How do they mean? And what do they mean when there is no language with explicit meaning or message even clearly present?
Wonderful. Thank
Another
you.
question, and I'll finish in a minute. What about subjectivity, the matter of personal taste? Can aesthetics perhaps learn from gastronomy? Can we acquire a new taste, like in food? And then we can talk about, I hope to talk about the sort of social aspects of it. What does art have to do with entertainment? Are they the same? With business, with power, censorship, meaning even, reality? Is there a conflict between art and democracy? Who decides what art is? And so on and so forth. I am afraid I am probably running out of my time. So I just hope, originally this class was very much envisioned as a small group of people live in a room, sort of talking to each other. I don't know what it will be like in Zoom. It's the first time for me to do it this way. I share someone's feeling that teaching sitting might be a really big challenge, and also sort of not really knowing or seeing the faces of everybody, but we'll see how it goes. So I hope you can join us. We will meet virtually Mondays at 3:30. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Laszlo. And I have to say, he really does his homework, because he has been actually attending OLLI classes for several months now to see how they work. And so he is a true researcher and a professor to really study how we're doing our Zoom classes and learning from it so that he can present his own. So we're so grateful to you for bringing your insight and your knowledge to our members. Thank you, Laszlo. So next up, I'd like to introduce Alan Rubin. Alan has been teaching actually quite a variety of classes for us over the years. The class that he is teaching this fall is called Disasters, Natural, Industrial, and Man-Made. It'll be held on Wednesdays. Alan holds a bachelor's and a master's degree in metallurgical engineering from Lehigh University. He also owned and operated an independent retail business in New York City for 4 decades, which was then chronicled in his daughter Jen Rubin's book, We Are Staying, 80 Years in the Life of a Family, a Store, and a Neighborhood. And a couple of years ago, we were very honored to host a book reading with Jen about that book. He also mentors many in the local community, including BCC students, small businesses, and Taconic High School students, as well as being very involved in soccer. So please join me in welcoming Alan Rubin.
Thank you, Megan, for all those kind words. I'm really looking forward to teaching this course, because it's a topic that I have a lot of experience in, and it's interesting, but I'm looking forward for a lot of feedback from the student body, because a lot of these topics may be new to them. Submarines were mentioned from a previous instructor. I was working at International Nickel in 1965 when the entire US nuclear fleet was grounded for 6 months, and it was never known because of what was perceived as a defect, which was nothing more than a human error in welding a fraction too deep. The day we got the specimens, we knew the answer to the problem, and yet it was grounded for 6 weeks, because if we went to the government and told them it was just as simple as that, they never would have believed us. So my boss said that was a lesson in political metallurgy. A couple of things just to whet your appetite is I'm going to talk about the Boston molasses failure in 1919. There was a huge storage tank that had 2.3 million gallons of molasses in it. And then, and this was in December. And then all of a sudden it ruptured and 21 people died. I forget the count on all the horses, but I'll go into why that happened and why a slight difference in temperature and nobody would have died. The molasses would have been liquid instead of gooey. So you know, that there was another one called the Galloping Gerety. This was a bridge in Tacoma, Washington that was well designed. It was structurally very sound, but they didn't take into account the crosswinds coming up the river. And so the bridge hit its harmonic frequency. And another thing that's going to be important is I'm going to be using videos to show a lot of these disasters because words do not do them justice. And then another one that I'll be discussing is the 1927 Mississippi River flooding. And most people who know about that knows what happened in New Orleans, but it was decisions made by the Army Corps of Engineers all the way up in Ohio that created that problem. And there was, back in 100 years earlier, there was a discussion on how to handle flooding on the Mississippi River. And there was a difference in opinion between somebody who was with the Army Corps of Engineers and had political connections in Washington and was disagreeing with somebody who was an expert in the field and had excuse me, had firsthand knowledge of working on the Mississippi riverbed. And as you can see today, it was the same problem of the experts being questioned by the politicians. Today, we're losing out to the politicians. 100 years ago, we lost out to the politicians. So I'll be going over that. So I'm looking forward to this. And what I've done in my previous courses is I like to show short videos, but there's usually much longer videos. So I send those out in advance. So you can come into the class with some sort of background. So I look forward to seeing you in class.
Great. Thank you so much, Alan. And thank you to all of the instructors who gave us a sneak preview of their classes today. I now would just like to double check and see if there's any instructors here that somehow I missed, because there's so many people here today. It is certainly possible. So if there is, just let me know. Going once, going twice. So the instructors who spoke today were just some of our fall semester. There's a terrific array of people who will be teaching this fall, and not everyone could make it today. But I do want to thank all of the ones that were here today for their sneak preview. We're now open for questions and comments about OLLI or individual classes. If you could put them in the chat box, that would be great, and I will read them and answer or direct them to the appropriate instructor. So let me just take a look at chat. Hank asks, if someone is registered for a class but misses a session, will they be recorded to allow a makeup? Yes, that, as I mentioned, that's one of the great silver linings of Zoom. Certainly we would love to be meeting in person, but because we are on Zoom, all of our classes are recorded. So all you need to do is send a quick note to olli@berkshirecc.edu, to the OLLI office, and we will send you a link to the recording. So which also means that if there's a class that you would love to take, but it doesn't work with your schedule, you can still sign up for it and just watch it on demand whenever you wish. And Colleen says, unfortunately, I missed the first few presenters at the open house today. Can we view this session on demand? And the answer to that is also yes. We'll send out a link to everyone who registered afterwards. So if you missed part of it because there was a little bit of a Zoom glitch happening for a few people, you can see it. It's also actually posted on our Facebook page, and we're delighted to say that Pittsfield Community Television is also recording it and will play it on local TV as well. So because this is, such a great way, a great introduction to OLLI, that we do share it as many ways as we can. So please, if you have other questions for any of the instructors about any of the classes, you can put them in, and I see another one there. So Ellen Quabier asked, will Tom Gerety translate, quote unquote, translate the constitutional laws for those of us who aren't attorneys? Tom, would you like to answer that question? If he's still here?
I got to unmute. Yeah, I was going to say bien entendu and translate it to French. No, I'm a very populist teacher, and I like to talk down to earth English and get right to it. And a lot of constitutional law shenanigans masks politics, in my view.
Great. All right. Have other questions for our instructors, questions about OLLI? Someone asked if you could take the Transformative Technologies class, even if you're not a OLLI at VCC member, and the answer is yes, you can register. Actually, if you register to take the class as a non-member, we give you an OLLI membership as part of it. So it's $110. If you're not a member, that includes a one-year OLLI membership. Otherwise, it's the same price as a normal class, a normal OLLI class, same part of the quantity discount that we offer as well. So definitely encourage people to take that. And I just want to remind everyone that all of our instructors are also volunteers. They are giving their time, their knowledge, and insight because they love teaching, and they especially love teaching OLLI members. We hear this from many instructors. Because OLLI members themselves bring a wealth of experience and knowledge with them, as well as great focus and attention. So thank you very, very much to all of the instructors. And also a note that our fall semester, of course, is fully online on Zoom, and our winter semester, we have decided will also be fully online as well. So that will start January 19th and run through February 26th. So if you're wondering for how much longer we'll be offering online classes, at least through winter. We haven't made a decision about spring yet, but we will, even if we do start offering in-person classes, we will continue to offer online classes because many of our members actually prefer it, and we like to offer that option for people that may be out of the area or have less mobility issues and so forth. So Alice Roth asked, can someone talk about the course on the Pilgrims as a recommended reading? Unfortunately, both instructors were not able to join us today, so I can't really tell you more than what is on the website. So for information on all of these classes, you can go onto our website at berkshireolli.org. You can register online easily, or you can call us, call the OLLI office at 413-236-2190, and you can register online with a credit card. So last call for questions. Going once, going twice, and going 3 times. And Andy has posted links, so you can go to the link to read more about the classes and sign up today. And I want to just thank everyone for joining us today. We had over 120 people online, and of course we had a terrific array of instructors speaking. And Louise sneaks in a question after the deadline. Do you need to buy the New York Times for the headlines class? You do not. You do not need to. They use an array of sources, and so that is not necessary, but it's a highly recommended class. So thanks again for joining us, and we hope to see you online soon. Bye-bye, everyone.